Hi guys, hope you're right. So yeah, today I'm going to be showing you how to use Python in repl.it again, but we're going to leave the turtle stuff alone, and we're going to dive straight into like coding some of the basic key areas that we need to know in Python. So we're looking at variables at the moment. We played around with those already in Python turtle, but really we're going to start looking at how we code those and manipulate those. So let's get on with it. So I'm going to open up a new repl here, or a new repl, sorry. And instead of this one here, we're going to go to this one without the turtle now. And I'm going to name my repl, and I will call it variables, and let's call it variables new. Okay, let's create that. Okay, so we have our coding area here. And then when we run, oh, excuse me, we're going to be showing our code running over here. Okay, so let's start with strings. All right, so we can display things or store things in variables that are called, and their data types are called strings. So let me show you an example of this. So if we had a computer game and it had monsters in it, so let's create the name of a monster. So okay, let's do monsters or monster name. Ooh. And then we're going to go, and that equals, and what we're going to do is, and we'll call the monster, let's call it Jim Bob. All right, not Jim Bob, Jim Bomb. And this is what we call a string. All right, so now these little hashtags here, all right, just means that they're comments. So what? Oh, that's repl being a pain. So string. No, you're annoying. I don't want you to do that. So yeah, they're comments. So these don't actually run any code or anything like that, but you can write little comments in to explain some of the code you've been writing. So yeah, this is a variable. Okay, that's the name of it. I've called it monster name. And essentially, it's just a box. Variables store stuff. Okay, they can store strings, which is text or numbers. They can be ints, which is short for integer, which is like whole numbers. So if we want to do any maths with numbers, whole numbers, we'd always use an int or an integer. And we have floats, they're decimals. And the other ones we're going to look at today are booleans. Okay, and you're probably asking what on earth is a boolean. So boolean is where we decide whether something is true or false. So the example we'll do today is about if you walked into a room in a computer game and you wanted to see if there was any monsters in there, the answer would either be true or false. Okay, so we'll look at that. But the first one we've done here is a string. Okay, and we make strings. Okay, the variables, we give them a name, and then we say they are equal to, and then this is the string. So all my monsters are called Jim Bob. All right. Okay, what else we have? We've got, so we can have number of monsters. Okay, and that could equal, let's say 12. All right, so, and this is, hopefully you might get the hang of this, is an integer. Okay, integer. We often, in Python, they are referred to as int. Okay. So, yep, we don't put any speech marks either side here or quotation marks either side when we're dealing with ints. We'll play around with these in a minute. Okay, so we can also have floats. So I mentioned before, these are decimals. So we could have, I don't know, the height of monsters, and that will be equal to, let's say they are 5.5, and that would be meters, but we don't put the measurement in, and then we will then say this is a float. All right, and lastly, are there any monsters? What's that? Are there any monsters? And we'll say false. Okay, and that can be either true or false, but in our case here, it's going to start off with false. So if we were checking in any room, if there are any monsters, it would be false at the moment. But anyway, and I should write after that, this is a boolean. A boolean. Anyway, so these are the main data types we're going to concentrate on now. Strings, quotation marks, whole numbers, also known as ints. Okay, no quotation marks. Same with floats here, which are decimals, and booleans, which are true and false questions. All right, so we can just start using our print function, and we can put in here. So if we wanted to put out the name of our monster, so we would type in the name of the variable. That's all we need to do is put in there monster name, run that, and it will show in our console here Jim Bob. All right, it's showing, it's printing out the monster name. Okay, so we use this print function, and that will then display things on our screen. Displays on the screen the contents of the variable. Okay, print. Yep. Once again, we can just do number of monsters. Do you know what I mean? Monsters. Yeah. So repl.it's quite good at predicting stuff. So let's do that. We should have Jim Bob and then 12, and then so on. And then let's do this. I'm gonna guess. Yes. And let's do the other one. Print. Are there? Yep. Okay. So if we run this now, you should see. Well, hopefully you'll work out what we've seen. All right. So that's how we can use variables and store things inside them, either text, numbers, decimals, or true or false. And then we can display them like that as well. We can use them in maths as well, so we could even print number. We could print number of monsters and then add, in fact, multiply by the number of monsters. Run that. And you can see there we've got 144. So we can do multiplication like that. And what you cannot do is you can't mix one data type with another in your print statement. So for instance, if I try to do print and then monster name plus number of monsters, if we try and run that, we will get an error. And this is what comes up. Can only concatenate string, not int to string. So what that really means is we've got a string here, but we can't combine it with an integer or an int. All right, it won't allow that in Python. And so when we want to display strings and ints together, what we really need to do is turn the int into a string. We call that process casting. When we want to turn one data type into another data type, it's called casting. So easy way to do that is print and then monster name. We can do this again like this, and we're going to add to it though, and we do this str. That's short for string. And whatever we put in these parentheses after str is going to be turned into a string. All right, only temporarily in this case, but so if I want to put number of monsters, okay, so I'm going to print here the monster name, which will be Jim Bob, and we're going to add to it, okay, the number of monsters. There's 12 here, but we cast it into a string by putting str here. It's exactly the same as what we tried to do here. We need to delete that now, but we cast into a string. So let's run that. Okay, and so now you can see we have Jim Bob and 12. So that's Jim Bob, and then that is my integer casted into a string and showing the number 12 there. Okay, so we can also, once again, we can do some maths, as I was saying before. We could do number of monsters multiplied by the number of monsters, like that as well. But that's pretty much a good introduction to variables and data types as well. Okay, so variables store things, data types store them as particular types of data. So that's a string, integer, decimal, boolean. Okay.